Love him or hate him, Rasmus Andersson has one of the best contracts in Flames history. Today, we are going to take a look at the best contracts in Calgary Flames history on today's episode of Locked On Flames.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Open up the FanDuel app and get looking and get started on your futures bets now. I thought today we could take a trip down memory lane and remember the good that Brad Treliving did in comparison to yesterday's episode where we talked about the worst contracts. All of these contracts are Brad Treliving deals, and they all happen to be defensemen, which is kind of ironic. But make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube, and we will be here for you through the remainder of the offseason, and we'll be back to daily shows before you know it, because the season will be starting in the blink of an eye. And wow, let's talk about it. This man has been a hot topic this summer, and that is, of course, the one and only Rasmus Andersson. His contract is a steal. It is a bargain if I have ever seen one. And it is, of course, he's in the final year of a 6-year, $4.5 million deal. That is less than Kevin Ball is making, to put that into perspective. He signed this deal in the 2020-21 offseason. He has consistently played above this contract and its value. I think that really outside of last season, he had been a consistently dependable, reliable top pairing defenseman. And this past season was very tough on him and for him for a multitude of reasons. I think a lot of it had to do with Kevin Ball coming in and going from a sheltered role with the New Jersey Devils to a top pairing role with the Flames. They are two very different jobs and within two very different organizations. But one of my favorite things about Andersson is his ability to quarterback a power play. I think for a few years there, he was absolutely just dominant on the power play. He was calm, cool, collected, composed, and had the right weapons to make anything possible. And that is one thing that I miss deeply. And another thing that I miss about Rasmus Andersson is his slap shot. When, there was something so electric and fun when he would just slap shot it on the power play. And just, it was a last resort sort of situation most times, but it was good. It was a good shot, and it was hard. I think for Andersson, one of the many benefits that he's had is his workhorse mentality. I think the Flames do a very good job, whether it's scouting or just, I don't want to say it happens to be a coincidence, because I think all, NHLers are working hard, but they have a history of really bringing in workhorse defensemen and really players that want to work and are willing to put their body in front of the puck, like Mackenzie Weegar, Rasmus Andersson, Chris Tanev. And we see it time and time again, and it has been rewarding. Granted, I look at Rasmus Andersson outside of last season, and I see a player that was determined. And it's not that last season he wasn't, it's just such an outlier that I don't feel like I can put it in with the rest of things. But I was looking at some comparables and what previous contracts might look like in comparison and things like that. And Noah Dobson was the most frequent comparison. And Noah Dobson just signed a $9.5 million extension with Montreal. His prior contract was $4 million a year for, I believe it was 3 or 4 years. And that is very likely what Andersson would command on the open market. And I think that that's where him and his agent want to be. It's been a bit since we've heard any sort of update from the Flames or Andersson himself on what the offer actually is. But I think with the way that the cap is increasing and how defensemen like Andersson, like Weegar, like Tanev are really they're disappearing as this new wave of this next generation come in. People are going to play top dollar for them. Andersson played the final 12 games of the season with a broken leg because he blocked a shot. Teams will eat that up. If he's willing to do that to help them make the playoffs, imagine what he's going to do when, it's game 7 and a championship's on the line. That sort of thing. I think that this is one of Brad Treliving's best contracts. Yesterday, it was super easy to dog on the bad ones. It was certainly very easy to think of bad contracts. And it was fairly easy to think of the good contracts that we're going to talk about on today's episodes. But regardless, Andersson has played above and beyond that $4.5 million mark. Would I be shocked if he gets $9 million in his next deal? No, I wouldn't. And I would assume they're going to be asking for closer to that 9.5. But coming up next, we're going to talk about the heartbeat of the team, and that is Mackenzie Weegar, coming up next here on Locked On Flames. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Could it be Dak Prescott? Could it be Patrick Mahomes? Will it be a dark horse? And let's crown our champion in August. If I say the Cowboys, you might stop listening right now, but you never know. Or you can parlay your division winner dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are following me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. This contract for Mackenzie Weegar was like the easiest thing to think of. This was the first contract that I thought of when I thought steals. And for those of you who may need a refresher, Mackenzie Weegar came over from Florida in the Matthew Tkachuk trade and went on to sign an 8-year, $6.25 million deal. He has been an impactful player on and off the ice since his arrival. And to me, that is priceless, especially the difference you make off the ice, because you are a valued part of the community. You're here for a long time. You have made it clear you want to be here. So to give back in that way, I think it's a big deal. And Weegar came in and, like I said, from day one made a difference, but also really made it his project to make the Flames a desirable organization that players want to come to in free agency. And I think that, we're a few years into this task and we're getting there. Not something that happens overnight, but when you're looking at this Mackenzie Weegar deal, you're kind of looking at it the same way as you're looking at the Rasmus Andersson deal. $6.25 million for Mackenzie Weegar, who is consistently snubbed for, top 20 defenseman lists or Team Canada. I don't know what he has to do. He has worked so hard to claw his way to the NHL and stay there and then become the defenseman he's become. I think that he's obviously taken over the power play for the Flames. I think he's done a good job. All things considered, with the assets the Flames have, what's going against them, what's going for them, it's okay. And I think he does a good job. And there's not a doubt in my mind that he is the next captain of the Flames. And again, that is something that is priceless, because your intangibles, like your leadership ability, your ability to, have everyone kind of rally around a tough situation, or give that locker room intermission talk and say, listen, it's tough out there, but I know that each and every one of you have it in you to win. And I think that Weegar is the first player to talk to the media and take accountability. And we're talking a lot about his off-ice contributions. On ice, he scores. He does. This last season, it was, there was a dip in the offense, but he was blocking shots left and right. There are times where I really don't know if he has a broken leg because the way that the way and the quickness that he blocks these shots, I cannot imagine the bruises underneath everything going on his legs. That's gotta hurt. But I think with Weegar, you have a player that is determined to be in Calgary, that wants to be here, that has shut down trade rumors every single time they've come up. And it's nice to see, considering where the Flames were at when he arrived. And I was looking similar to Andersson, was looking at some comparables, and Roman Josi and Dougie Hamilton were two of those two names on that list. And for his name to be amongst those players, but not get the respect from Team Canada, it makes me feel frustrated for him, because I don't understand what he would have to do. Does he have to, walk across Legos while balancing on a tightrope? Like, what egregious act do they need him to do? I think that he would be a great fit for the Olympics. I think that it would be dumb to leave him off, but at the end of the day, we know that some of these general managers aren't making the best decisions. They're making decisions based on favorites. And I think that Weegar, again, embodies what it means to be a Flame. And his passion, his perseverance, his dedication, the accountability, the consistency, the ability to overcome adversity, as well as just being out there and doing what he has to do and being quick on his feet and being a workhorse, like, that is what it takes. And I wish that we could just clone him. And I'm really excited to watch Zane Parekh kind of step into this lineup and learn from Weegar. I think that it's a great mentorship opportunity there. But like I mentioned before with Roman Josi and Dougie Hamilton, they're making more than $6.25 million. So could you imagine what Weegar would command on the open market? Just like Andersson was around 9, I mean, I would probably say Weegar is around 7.5. He would definitely be making more than I think Hanifin. What, 7.5 million? I think he'd be closer to 8, low 8s, if anything. Now, do I want him to be making that? Yeah, realistically, of course. I think everyone should get their bag. But Brad Treliving did a great job locking him up at a very fair price. And we have the next so many years with Weegar. And I know that they say, like, players, like, after 28, 29, they start to come back down to earth. But this past season, Weegar was 30 years old, and he has been playing very well. And I'm looking forward to see how this power play does with him. Again, I think that they really are very lucky that they have the option to use him. And coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show with a former captain and a man that, again, embodies what it means to be a Calgary Flame. Coming up next here on Locked On Flames. You just realized your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in the spot where you need to bring in another team player and the pressure's on. Every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. I did not intend for this list to be all number one, Brad Treliving contracts, but also defensemen. It worked out like that. I think yesterday, with like the worst contracts, it was very easy to just like pick those out of a lineup. And with the best bargains, I guess you would say, it was a little bit harder because, everyone values contracts differently. But to me, Mark Giordano and his 6-year, $6.75 million deal that he signed with under Brad Treliving has got to be one of my favorites and one of the best values. And what's absurd is that he signed this deal at 32 years old. Is that not the most Brad Treliving thing you've ever heard? Yes. But Gio did what a lot of players didn't do. and proved he was worth every penny and then some. He went out there night after night. He led the team through the ups and downs. He won the Norris Trophy in 2019 at 35 years old. Yes, the Norris Trophy, which has kind of strayed away from going to the best defenseman, but rather somebody who scores the most. But regardless, Gio embodied what it meant to be a Norris Trophy winner, and his actions on the ice reflected that, and he won. To me, that is absurd, because all you're seeing right now are players in their like young mid-20s winning, and for an older guy to win it at 35 on a team that, you know, they were coming off a really good season, and he was a fantastic leader that, you know, had plenty to contribute offensively, nearly as much as his defensive abilities, just speaks volumes to me. Because, you know, back then I wasn't following the Flames super close, but I knew about Gio, and if I had a vote, I would have voted for him easily. It would be a very simple decision. And I think the other thing that gets me here is the fact that he was undrafted. Does that not feel like a very flamesy, underdog, gritty, grinding guy, literally from the bottom to the top? I think that when he waived his no movement clause for the expansion draft for Seattle, it was obvious that Seattle was going to take him over Lucic, and he was their first captain and then was sent to Toronto. So he eventually, you know, called it quits, but he was still very effective up until he stepped away from the game. And I think you look at $6.75 million now and kind of like, what? Like, that's nothing. I mean, like, sure, but you have to think back to when that contract was signed. When players started getting contracts that started with 8s or like high 7s, I think that there was a shift. The same way that there's that shift now that we're seeing, especially now with the cap rising. You see a player making more than $10 million and it's like, whoa, what do you mean? And I'm sure there was a similar reaction back then because it's a lot of money. And for me, I think that he played above and beyond it. Obviously, for his on ice contributions, the reward, the trophies he won, the accolades, the success he had as a team. But again, just like Mackenzie Weegar, it's the intangibles. It is about how you lead a team, not just a team, but your team through the thick of it, through every high and low, especially considering how many coaching changes there have been within the Flames organization. And not like in the last 10 years alone. So I think that it is important to remember things have certainly changed within the organization and within the league as a whole, but Gio is really one of the last players, I think, to be like him. And I think that his legacy will carry through the Flames. And I think you'd have to be pretty gutsy to wear the number 5 in Calgary again. But I hope that the way that he led his team. I think it was passed down to Backlund. And I hope that they keep that same, I don't know what you'd call it, the same foundation and fundamentals there, because it's important. And as important as their on-ice contributions are, the off-ice stuff matters too. And that will do it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I can't believe it's August 14th and the Flames still have not signed Connor Zary or traded Rasmus Andersson, but here we are, and this will be your place to be when either of those things happen. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.